In this lesson, we'll learn how to create our own custom parameters. Apart from the many parameters Softimage gives us control over, we can go in and create our own parameters to regulate other parameters in Softimage, which is really exciting. So we'll use a custom parameter to control our wing flaps. It'd be a lot easier to control them that way. We'll also use a custom parameter to regulate our engine fan speed. So it'll be tied to an expression so that it will rotate by our current time, and then we'll use the custom parameter to control the fan speed. So those are just a few things that we'll use custom parameters for. We'll also use one to control our back flap on the ship's tail. But let's say we get right to work. Now, when setting up these custom parameters, it's a good idea to just add them to one central location, making them easy to find. However, if you're working on a character, and let's say if you needed to create custom parameters for the character's fingers, then in that case, it'd be a good idea to add it to, let's say, your main arm control. Again, it's very convenient, very easy to find those parameters that way. So in our case, we'll add them to our ship control. Now in Softimage, what we'll need to do first is create a parameter set. So parameters are stored underneath parameter sets. Let's go back to our animate toolbar. Quick way to do that is to use the hotkey Control 1. Well, of course, we could always click on the icon all the way to the left, the bottom of the toolbar. Alright, so with our ship control selected, we'll head over to Create Parameter and choose New Custom Parameter Set. Let's make this name descriptive. So we could always call this Extra Controls. So we know that all of the extra controls on our ship can be found underneath this parameter set. Once it's added, we can't quite see that it has been created unless we were to go to our Explorer. What I'll do is go to the main control panel and choose Selection. This is a mini Explorer. And notice there is our extra controls parameter set. Now, very important, when you're ready to start adding custom parameters, the parameters that we will actually animate, let's say if you're working with multiple sets, well, you'll first want to go in and grab the set you'd like to add parameters to. So I'll go ahead and select the extra control set, and now we can head over to Create Parameter and choose New Custom Parameter. Notice the hotkey Shift P. Okay, great. So the first one we're going to create is going to be for, let's say, the tail flap. So we'll simply label this tail flap. We will be using a floating point number. That's going to give us more finer control so we can have a smoother animation in the end. But notice we have several other settings. Integer is going to keep our value at whole numbers. So what that means is that if we were to use integer, we might notice a little bit of snapping because we're snapping to a whole number as we modify our parameter field. So that's why it's a good idea to use floating point number. We'll want the value set to 0. This is the default value, meaning that there will be no movement at all on the tail flap. All right, next we have our min and max values. So let's go ahead and set the minimum to -10. So that means that the tail is going to move in one direction and it won't surpass or won't exceed that direction that we define. And now to have it move in the opposite direction, we can go ahead and set our maximum value to +10. Okay, great. So everything looks good. We can now choose OK. And now that that parameter has been created, if we were to go back to our Selection Explorer, there's our extra controls. I'll actually grab the ship controls so we can clearly see this. There's our extra controls. Double-clicking on that, you'll find the tail flap parameter. That's one way to access it. Another way, which is very convenient, is from the King panel. So you can see that those custom parameters are added to this panel. All right, great. We have a few more to add, so let's get right to work. We'll select our ship control and press Shift P. Again, that's the hotkey to create a new custom parameter. The next few will be for our wing flaps. So we'll create one for the right flap. We're going to give this a minimum of -35 and a maximum of +52. And here's why. If we were to go in and rotate those nulls, you'll find that when we rotate it down, a good point to stop at would be around this range, -35. And as we rotate it up, a good point to stop would be around 52. So that's really up to you to decide whatever works best for you, but these are the values I'm going to use. So I'll now go ahead and choose OK. We'll press Shift P again to create a parameter for the left wing flap. So we'll simply call that left flap. Again, the minimum is -35, the max +52. We'll choose OK. Let's create one more that we'll use for our engine fan. So we'll simply call this one engine fan speed. The default value is 0. We'll have the minimum set to 0. So what that means is that there will be no spinning at all. So once we set up our expression, we want to make sure 0 is going to give us no change at all in the fan. And the max we'll set to 5, meaning that we'll get a faster spin. So that's going to be really exciting, and we'll get to that shortly. Let's go ahead and choose OK. All right. Now let's say if we wanted to get back and edit these parameters. Well, you most certainly can do that. Simply select your object. Once you have the object selected, you can now go in and select the parameter you'd like to edit. So let's say if we wanted to delete one of these, let's say our engine fan speed that we just created, it'd just be a matter of going to parameter and choosing remove custom parameter. So when we do that, it's going to remove that parameter. But we could always press Ctrl Z to bring it back. If we ever need to edit its value, simply go ahead and choose Edit Parameter Definition. And now we'll get right back to that selected parameter, and we can go ahead and set our min and max speed. Okay, same thing goes with our parameter sets. With the parameter set selected, you can go ahead and choose Edit Custom Parameter Sets. Or if you ever need to, if we were to go to our Explorer, I'll just press the 8 key this time, expand our control object. We could always, let's say, rename our parameter set from here by pressing F2. So Softimage gives us a lot of control over editing these once they have been made. But that's going to finish this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll start to set up our extra control system. And the first thing we're going to do is work on that tail flap.